So everybody that reaches out to me, I start with a free intro call because I just want to make sure I'm the right resource for them. So we chat for 15, 20 minutes. I'm a huge fan of transparency. So all of my service offerings, my session types, pricing is all on my website. I don't mess around with that. I just think people deserve the right to select in or select out. I think it's a waste of time, to be honest, when people are trying to hide the price tag of something under the rug. Like, I just think it's better for people to have the information.
Welcome to Career Coaching Secrets, the podcast where we talk with successful career coaches on how they built their success and the hard lessons they learned along the way. My name is Davis Nguyen, and I'm the founder of Purple Circle, where we help career coaches scale their business to $100,000 years, $100,000 months, and even $100,000 weeks. Before Purple Circle, I've grown several 7- and 8-figure career coaching businesses myself, and have been a consultant at 2 career coaching businesses that are doing over $100 million each. Whether you're an established coach or building your practice for the first time, you'll discover the secrets to elevating your coaching business.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Career Coaching Secrets Podcast. I'm your host, Regen, and today's guest is Krystal Hicks. She's the founder of Job Talk and a career strategist whose mission is as clear as her tagline, "Jobs are my job." With a background spanning staffing, university career services, and corporate recruiting, Krystal has seen every angle of hiring process, and she's used that experience to empower thousands of job seekers to find clarity, confidence, and purpose in their careers. After years of saying, "I wish I had more time to help," Krystal built Job Talk to do exactly that, give people the kind of honest, practical, and empowering career support she knew they deserved. Now she works with both individuals and employers, offers workshops and talks across the country, and teaches the next generation of job seekers how to truly stand out in today's market. And it's a pleasure for me to have her on the podcast today. Welcome to the show, Krystal.
Thank you so much for having me.
It's a pleasure for us, Krystal. So I want to know, I'm curious, what inspired you to become a coach and then start your own coaching business?
Sure. I think for a long time, the idea of starting a career counseling practice was the retirement dream. So it was like, oh, someday I'd love to do that, right? I really loved working in career services capacities. I spent 7 or 8 years in higher ed career services. And one of the things that I noticed was a lot of times I would have parents calling me of students that I had worked with and helped. And the parents would say, "Hey, I'm in transition. Can you help me? Blah, blah, blah." And I just kind of realized that there wasn't a lot of these resources out there for non-students, where students are getting this through college, but it just kind of planted the seed that like, this is actually a resource that's really needed. And so that for me was sort of the precipice of like, okay, I'm going to start thinking about this. As soon as I started thinking about it, I actually wound up getting recruited out of higher ed into corporate and went into the corporate recruiting side. I worked for Lindt Chocolates, if you've ever had the truffles. Their U.S. headquarters is near me. So I actually was doing all of their U.S. recruitment. And after a couple of years of that, I just really missed the career counseling aspects of it. And so I gave my VP of HR a 12-month notice and said, I'm giving you a heads up, like I got to go try this. And I prepared and built the framework of everything from the ground up behind the scenes while I was still working. And then April of 2019, I launched Job Talk full-time.
So throughout these years of doing it and running your coaching business, which part of your coaching journey do you find the most rewarding since you started your business?
Oh, definitely working with people one-on-one. I would never give that up. I think it's tough because when you think of it from a business perspective, you can typically make more money if you're working on the corporate side more. When I work with organizations, I'm helping them, build in more equity to their hiring process. I'm helping them streamline their hiring process and get more strategic about their recruitment pipelines and stuff like that. That's really fun. And it's a higher bill rate, so to speak, but I love working with people one-on-one. So that for me is always the thing that I try to protect my time so that like my corporate work doesn't pull me away from working with folks one-on-one.
And we talked also in your intro that you're working with individuals as well as employers. Just for anyone who's listening, I wanted to clarify it a little bit, like the target audience and who you serve and how the transformation looks like for them. So how does that look like?
Sure. So I would say 80% of my time is spent with individuals, so one-on-one job seekers. And I would say I see about 400 clients a year. Everybody's different. The majority of folks that reach out to me are working. They're not unemployed. So these are people that just have their head on a swivel. they're looking to make a transition. They don't know what else is out there. So a common thing that I hear from people, right? They'll call me and say, hey, listen, like, I don't know what I don't know. I just know that this isn't it. And I need to figure out what else is out there. What are my other options? So for my one-on-one folks, it's either digging into the tactical stuff, resume, job search, LinkedIn, cover letters, interview prep, all that kind of stuff, or it's really kind of road mapping out different options. So again, that's probably 80% of my time. And then 20% of my time I actually spend either on site or doing corporate webinars or different trainings and stuff for hiring managers, or coaching junior recruiters, teaching them how to use like LinkedIn recruiter seats, stuff like that.
And when it comes to the people that you work with, just to explain the program a little bit better, how does the program work, and how their transformation looks like afterwards?
For the individual job seekers?
Mm-hmm.
So everybody that reaches out to me, I start with a free intro call because I just want to make sure I'm the right resource for them. So we chat for 15, 20 minutes. I'm a huge fan of transparency. So all of my service offerings, my session types, pricing is all on my website. I don't mess around with that. I just think people deserve the right to select in or select out. I think it's a waste of time, to be honest, when people are trying to hide the price tag of something under the rug. Like, I just think it's better for people to have the information they need to make the decisions. Because this is real stuff for people, right? Especially if someone is unemployed. I think it's important to be transparent about what things cost. And one of the pillars of my business is accessibility. So I keep my pricing low essentially to be competitive. And my programs, as you kind of put it, my offerings are session based. So I don't have requirements for, you have to sign up for at least 3 sessions or anything like that. There are plenty of people that I work with where they'll say, hey, I need some road mapping. We have 1 or 2 sessions around that. And then maybe we're doing some kind of like resume overhaul or job search. I have like different sessions based around different components. And it's kind of like I set up my website like an a la carte menu. Some people need certain things, but they don't need everything. And I'm a recruiter at my core. I'm an efficiency centered animal. So I am all about getting people from point A to point B as quickly as possible. And so for some people, that transformation looks like, okay, we've had a couple sessions. We've removed whatever barriers were there for them. They're off and running. Other clients, they have full access to my calendar once we have that intro call. So other clients jump on the calendar more regularly because they're kind of leaning into me as more of an accountability partner, or maybe they have a larger transition or we're working on a lot more. I also work with individuals who are happy in their company, but they're trying to navigate a promotion or they're trying to navigate a role change. And so there's sort of this like continued coaching that I also offer, which is just more regular. I call it kind of like job therapy. My clients kind of call it. So it's just really for people that are trying to navigate. I want to be a better manager to my team. I need to increase engagement. How do I deal with this micromanager that I have on my back? Stuff like that. So everybody's different. And that's why I kind of say, like, I don't have a cookie cutter process that everybody moves through. I always tell my clients, think of me as kind of like the GPS, but you're always driving the car. So you dictate the pace and it's always up to them when they want to jump on the calendar, but I run a no pressure practice. So there's never any pressure or rush on my side.
And is there a specific like industry or demographic that you find these individuals from usually, or is it broad?
It is so funny because I will have what I call waves. The majority of people that I work with come through referrals. I'm very grateful for that. But for example, I will work with one client who is leaving, like the music industry. They work for a major record label, right? And let's say there's a whole bunch of changes going on in that space. I work with them and then all of a sudden I have like 5 of their colleagues on my calendar in the next 2 weeks, right? And then like they refer more people from the music industry. So all of a sudden I'll have like a 3-month, period where it's just music, entertainment, like live events, like it's people kind of, I have learned about really cool companies that are out there from the people I work with. But it really is kind of, I'm at the mercy of who's jumping on the calendar and I don't restrict in a sense. If I have an intro call with someone and I feel like they're coming from a space or even a functional role that I just do not feel comfortable with, or I haven't had any exposure to, I'm very upfront with people about that. And I might say to them, like, listen, I can help you with some of these tactical pieces, but like, I personally don't have any experience in that space. There's only been maybe 1 or 2 folks that were highly, highly specialized and highly technical that I've had that conversation with. And we still ended up working together and working on some other things. But I just, I I'm open, and I might talk to a college student in one call. And then the next call I have is with somebody who's on, the path to retirement and they're looking for their last thing. But if I could, say who's my favorite client to work with, I love working with recent grads that are in the first like 5 to 10 years of their career. I just think there's so many possibilities. I don't think we do young people in this country a lot of justice when it comes to helping them career plan and career path out options. So that for me is always the most rewarding, kind of exposing people to spaces, functions, industries that they've never even heard of that they'd be a great fit for.
And so it's been around like 6 years and a half or something that you are running your own coaching business right now, right?
Yep.
And throughout these years, you did mention that the large majority of your clients find you through referrals. Uh, what is the other part coming from? Is it some other channel? Is it
LinkedIn.
LinkedIn?
Mm-hmm. Yep. LinkedIn. Every now and then I'll have like a Google search person that's like, I just Googled you, or I Googled like career counseling near me and you popped up. But because everything's so virtual and I have, I worked at the University of New Hampshire for many years in career services. I still teach at the University of New Hampshire in their business school. I teach a college to career class. And so you figure 50% of the population's out of state. So when my students kind of scatter throughout the rest of the country, and then they talk to people, they talk to coworkers now, they talk to other people. It's like my clients are coming from all over the place. I have clients that are American in other countries, that are expats, that are also navigating work in other spaces. I have family in different states. So the referrals kind of come from all of these different places. But I would say 85% of the people that I'm working with are through someone else that I've worked with, which is wonderful. Especially when you're working with populations that are typically employed and they're confidentially searching. I don't have the luxury of being that person that's like, leave me a Google review. It's like, they're confidentially searching. I don't want them outing themselves by telling, like putting on Google that they're working with me. So referrals truly are like, the biggest form of flattery when you're in this space.
Yeah, it's also a proof that like it's working very well. They're getting their
Totally.
results, and yeah, it's a proof for you that you're doing the right thing with your coaching. It's working very well. Now, I also saw that on your LinkedIn, you also do post a little bit of content on LinkedIn. Is there a strategy for the content that you follow?
I am let's see. So my relationship with LinkedIn, right? You have to realize jobs have been my job for 17 years. So I started in staffing. I've been on LinkedIn since 2008. So I have 13,000 connections because, as most recruiters, it's our job to be well connected, right? So even when I was leaving Lint and I posted on LinkedIn that I was going to be opening Job Talk full time and, here's the link to hop on the calendar and stuff, I had people from every corner of my professional life that I had connected with on LinkedIn over the years see that. And that post just like went viral, like for me, and my calendar started like loading up, so, and then COVID hit, obviously, April of 2019 launched the business, March of 2020 comes and it's like, let's see what happens. And my calendar probably cleared for like 2 weeks and then it just exploded after that. I think when people realized it wasn't going to end overnight kind of thing. So for me, it's not so much a content strategy on LinkedIn. It's more that I already had the access built in and I've stayed in my lane. And this is something when people ask me like, what do you think has led to your success? It's like, aside from, hopefully being good at what I do, this has been my lane for 17 years, so I'm not the person who worked in marketing or worked in finance and then decided I wanted to be a coach. I don't think there's anything wrong with that, but I am very explicit with people. I'm very honest with my students as well in college and everybody I work with. When you are taking career advice from people, I think it's very important that you're talking to somebody who sat on the other side of that table in a salary negotiation. They haven't just read articles about it. You know what I mean? I have hands-on experience filling positions, right? I have hands-on experience being in the rooms with hiring managers, hearing why they didn't actually like that candidate that looked like a slam dunk on paper. What was it that actually caught them or caught their attention or wowed them about the underdog candidate that we presented, right? So there's something that comes with that exposure and that experience and that perspective that I think really makes the difference. And because I have that experience firsthand, that's the stuff that I speak to on LinkedIn. That's the stuff that I want to call out. I do not appreciate Monday morning quarterbacks or these armchair experts on LinkedIn that think they can just start spouting off about resume advice. And it's like advice that would literally keep people unemployed. And then I look at their LinkedIn and they've never once been a recruiter or a hiring manager, but they just feel like they have, all of the, runway in the world to speak this stuff. That is so frustrating to me. And so that tends to be what I speak about and post about is I'm half the time trying to set the record straight, whether it's like AI in the ATS process or, myths in job hunting and stuff. I'm just always trying to clean that stuff up for people. I think there's too much fear mongering out there to drive like product or something.
Yeah, I really like that about you. So it's a very normal transition from recruiting to then being a coach. And like you said, you've been on this lane for many years. You didn't just wake up one day and decided to start your coaching business. So it just came very naturally. I wanted to ask you, when it comes to things you're looking forward to or goals, when it comes to your coaching business, what does that look like for the next 1 to 3 years, short to medium term goals?
That's a great question. I think it's, everybody wants to scale. Everyone's always talking about scaling, right? And I've had so many people say to me, like, when are you going to scale? When are you going to hire people? And it's like, God, I don't ever want to hire people ever again. Like, I've been a director. I've had a team of 6. When I ran career services at UNH, we had all 15,000 students rolling up under my team. I loved the people that I worked with. I'm still friends with them, but I'm a control freak, and I'm totally happy admitting that I'm just here to wrap my arms around this business, and I do not want direct reports. It's a quality control thing for me. I also just don't chase inflation in that way. I own my home. I am financially secure. I'm very independent, and I'm very grateful for those things, but it's because I've scaled my business in a way that made sense for me. When I say I see 400 people a year, that wasn't even the goal. That's just what it's come out to be on average the last 3 years specifically. So when I think about 1 to 3 years from now, it's not like I want to see 600. I want to see 700. I wouldn't sleep. Like, there are only so many hours in a day, Regin. So I am not out here saying I want more clients. I think for me, it's been leveraging certain like recorded courses. Like I use a teachable platform. I have 4 mini courses that are part of what I call the Job Talk Academy. These are, more transactional types of services that I've offered before. So there's one on resumes, there's one on cover letters, there's 2 on LinkedIn. And so if somebody couldn't get on my calendar, they needed something right away, they can purchase a course, which would be cheaper than if we'd even had like the live time together. So I'm always trying to make sure that things are affordable and accessible for people. But to me, that is really kind of where it's at. I think my goal is just to continue scaling in a way that makes sense for me, and doing more, like workshops and webinars and stuff like that. I mean, I love the fact that we're all able to get back in the room together. And I love going to conferences. I always try to increase my conferences every year, not just the ones I speak at, but like going to some where I can just kind of be in sponge mode. So, that's probably my goal for this next year. Is I was slacking this year on the conferences, but I think I'm going to try to get like at least 2 in for next year. So
you'd say that right now you're in a very comfortable position with how your company is, where your company is at. And I really like that.
I'm so grateful. I tell people all the time, don't make me scale. Don't make me change this. I don't want like, I can afford my lifestyle. This is great. It's coming from, corporate where I was working like 60 hours a week for years on end and just, desperately wanting to own my own time. I make now what I was making when I left corporate, and I work a fraction of the time. So.
Absolutely. And I wanted to ask you about investments as well. So for any coach that is thinking of investing in their coaching business, I ask every guest that gets on the show of what are good investments that they have made that I actually have seen a lot of value from them. So in your case, what would you say have been some good investments that you've seen that have helped your business grow, or that you've seen value from?
Sure. Great question. Well, first of all, I would say to anybody thinking about starting a coaching practice, keep in mind that marketing helps with taxes. Like if you are a coach and everything is virtual, you have almost no overhead, meaning you have to find ways of spending money. Otherwise, you're going to be writing a massive check to the IRS every year. So I learned that lesson the hard way. I was way too financially conservative when I first started because it's new and you don't know if it's going to, succeed. And so you're like holding on to every penny kind of thing. I really believe in like different kinds of passive marketing. I don't pay for lead generation. I don't pay for marketing in that sense. I sponsor things. So I'm, a really big fan of cultural diversity. I live in New Hampshire. It's a predominantly white state. I'm very socially liberal. I, will put my money towards like BLM New Hampshire galas. I will put my money towards like, women's reproductive health conferences, and I'll sponsor things. I'll sponsor nonprofit. I also run a nonprofit. So I'm engaged in the community in that way. But for me, throwing $1,000 to sponsor an event or something and having people see my brand associated with something that not only means something to them because they're at this event, but it means something to me, that for me is a way better use of my money. And that's the kind of thing I want to invest in. And that's how I want people to get to know me. I always try to throw in different, free sessions and raffles when people are doing silent auctions and stuff at different events. I will say LinkedIn Premium is one of the things that I probably couldn't live without. When I was a recruiter, my LinkedIn recruiter seat, which was $10,000 a year, I'm not about to be purchasing that because I'm also not doing contract recruiting for anybody, but having a premium LinkedIn account, I think is important because it gives you more access. LinkedIn continues to kind of strip back access for free users. I am not actually a fan of LinkedIn Navigator. That's not something I think most people know how to use properly. And when you use it wrong, it can hurt your brand more than you know. It's like I've gotten so many messages with like not my name in the auto-populated field kind of thing. But other than that, I mean, honestly, like I just, it's investing in spaces, investing in people, investing in programs that you really believe in. That to me is absolutely where I stretch my marketing dollars more so than like print marketing or it's like the golf courses that call you and they're like, do you want to place an ad in our little golf booklet? And I'm like, ugh, you know what I mean? Like, I love that for other people. It's just not kind of where I want to throw my money. So
interesting. I actually never had this this thinking of like utilizing marketing also as a write-off for tax. That is an interesting
my God,
method.
it is
haven't thought
hugely helpful. You only have to write one like $15,000 check to the IRS at the end of the year to learn that lesson of like, oh no, I would so much rather be spending this money on things I actually care about or, flying, I try to, back to the conferences piece, that's a great write-off for people. So from a business perspective, looking for expos and like things that you can go to. I went to a couple future of work conferences. One was in Toronto and one was in London. Best money I spent. It was amazing. They were great. They were really well put on. And it was just, and it's learning, it's professional development for you, but it is truly like tricky to spend money sometimes, which I'm sure some people are like, woe is me. I wish I had that problem. But it's like when you don't have any overhead for your practice, you have to think about that.
Absolutely. That is something, that we haven't discussed in this podcast before. So I really like that that came up.
Learn from my mistakes, y'all.
And so I wanted to ask you, in terms of like challenges, what is a challenge that you're trying to solve for next within your coaching business?
I would say challenges. I mean, I think it's a little on the nose, but when you're doing career counseling and you're working with people that have been laid off, that's it pulls on the heartstrings, and it's something that I think as business owners, if you don't have a solid understanding or relationship with money where you feel like, okay, I want to offer this person some pro bono, services or time or whatever, or being able to have boundaries when people say, can you just do this for free? Right. That is a very challenging situation. I'm a recruiter. I'm used to having tough conversations. So that is not my problem anymore. But I would say it's something that I think, when you're offering options and resources and insights that can actually help people get employed, it's a tough it is always going to be a little bit of like a moral, ethical challenge because, again, I came from higher ed career services. I could see any student, any alum, anytime I wanted. There was never a fee. It's already being paid, basically the tuition that they're already paying covers that. So I think for me was one of the hardest things starting out was like, wow, you have to charge people for this. But that's also just the people pleaser in me. And then having to step back and recognize like, okay, I have 17 years of experience in this field. They're not paying for the 30 minutes or 60 minutes they're spending with me. They're paying for 17 years of insight and perspective and experience that can help them navigate this, situation more efficiently and gain better outcomes. So, the challenge is just always there. But I think, other than that, I feel really, really blessed that I don't have any looming issues. I mean, I think obviously on a grander scale, what's happening in our federal government right now, I've seen this like total mass exodus of federal employees saturating an already saturated private sector. And that becomes a tough population to work with because they may have been federal for 20 years. And this is the first time they've ever faced a job search. So again, it's more emotional challenges and like sort of like boundaries and ethics and having integrity when you work with people and stuff like that. But yeah, I'm very fortunate that I'm not out here saying like, oh, the tariffs are really screwing my business. It's like, luckily, not so much.
Well, that's great. And I think when it comes to pricing and that being a challenge, I feel like in your case already, it is as good as it can get. Like they can access you because you don't have like this program that, oh, you have to do 10 minimal sessions, otherwise you don't get to work with me. So you are very accessible, I think, compared to a lot of coaches that I've interviewed. There's coaches that will have like a $10,000 to $20,000 program that you have to get into before like you work with them. So yeah, there's different ways, but I feel like in your case it's accessible. So yeah, it makes sense.
I would never tell someone how to run their business, especially another woman, right? I would never tell anybody how to price their time. But I think charging people astronomical amounts of money for that is absolutely like highway robbery. Like I've heard of people that spend mortgage payments on a resume revamp. And I'm sorry, but something that, takes me a couple hours to do. Like this is my soapbox that I usually have to pull myself down off of. But like literally the reason why I started this practice was because even working in career services, I worked in career services at a community college for a few years before going over to UNH. And I would work with people that had already been out in their field. They were coming back to school to finish a degree, right? These were like a lot of night classes and stuff like that. And I was basically helping people find jobs in their new fields with their new degrees. And some of these folks that would tell me that they just dropped $2,000 on a resume or something. And then I see the resume and it's like horrifying what I'm seeing, to the point where like it's going to literally keep someone unemployed. It's that bad. And then I'm like, who did this? And they tell me, and we look the person up on LinkedIn, and it's like a salesperson or someone from like a marketing background or something. And I'm like, this person's never been in hiring. They have no idea how this stuff works behind the scenes. This is, it's like, it's heartbreaking. And so I come from a very humble background. Like I am the product of two people who always struggled to maintain gainful employment, very blue collar. I was first generation college student. Like for me, this work is personal in that way. I do not condone people absolutely taking folks to the cleaners for career advice. I think it's total horseshit. I think it's just awful. So that's why I it's not to say that I haven't increased my prices over the years. I think everybody gradually, as your business matures, should be looking at the market. Look at inflation's a real thing, right? And looking at what they need to be charging for their time and the populations that they're working with. But my goal is to never outprice my market of who I like to work with. And so I keep most of my sessions at like, a $200 an hour-ish kind of space. And like for my resume revamps, like I will never be charging $1,000 for resume work. Like that to me is just, again, I'm never going to tell someone what they can do. If that works for somebody else, more power to you. I hope you're really good at what you're doing. I hope you sleep well at night. But as far as I'm concerned, I think that's totally taking advantage of people who are in already a tough financial situation, most likely. And that's, again, where I can supplement more of my income when I work with my corporate entities. They have a completely different budget structure, right? But when I'm working with my individual folks, like, you know, I know coaches that will charge $350 an hour, but they live in Silicon Valley, or they're living in New York City. Like, they also have higher costs of living because of where they're physically located. I get that. But I like keeping my pricing in a place that feels very comfortable for people, because it's already stressful enough for them to be embarking on this journey of career counseling and maybe pivoting in their career, let alone having to pay, for a resume revamp with their firstborn. Like, I'm just not about that. So
I really like what you stand for, and I hope many people listen to that and are like, come to you and work with you, because this is amazing. And just to talk about the people, when I mentioned that pricing, I mean mostly because I don't interview just career coaches. I also interview leadership coaches, executive coaches. So it's
sure.
a different type of,
Population.
yeah. So it might make maybe sense for them because they're working for people who already have a job in like an executive position. So it's a different pricing at that point. But yeah, for a resume, I totally understand that where you come from. So it makes a lot of sense. You wouldn't have to take a loan for a resume. That is
I mean,
absurd.
Like, again, it's not to say like you're not allowed to raise your prices, right? I mean, like, you got to live your life, and, but I just think, it's kind of tough. People kind of look at it sometimes and say, oh, it's like real estate, a house is only worth what someone's willing to pay for it. And I'm like, yeah, but like, ethically, I want this to be affordable. It's like, I could, I have a workshop that, it's like a college to career boot camp that I do. I have 2 dates this summer. And it's like $150 for 90 minutes of content. And I am going to literally wring out the towel and give participants everything they need. Like, these are recent grads. It's a highly competitive job market right now. Like, I want them to get as much information from me as possible in that 90 minutes, and resources, and the recording, and, so it's like, I also just want to feel good about what I'm offering, because that's why I'm doing this. You know what I mean? So it's personal to me, but it's also like, I won't lie that, like, I've seen plenty of coaches come and go because they try to charge astronomical prices for things. And it's like, what did you expect? Like, the price of admission is way too high for most people that aren't working. So.
Absolutely. And for anyone who like is listening right now, either a coach that wants to scale their business, well, obviously you're not looking to scale yours. If you were looking, what advice would you give to someone who is looking to scale their impact as a coach?
Great question. I think the why for everybody is going to be individual, so I think you have to ask yourself, why are you really doing this? And if you want to make a large impact for a lot of people, and you want, you could do group sessions, you can do group webinars, like, there's lots of ways that you can do that. If you are offering something and you're taking a unique approach, and the way that you want to do it, you feel like people can't actually get that value without having multiple sessions with you, more power to you. Like, I'm not going to tell someone that they have to go and price out their time per session or per hour. I mean, I do have a couple different packages, but honestly, they're mostly for gifting. Like, more people jump on my site and they say, like, oh, I want to gift my husband something. He's been out of work and blah, blah. And this package has the 3 sessions that I think would really help him. It's like, I just want to gift him that package. You can bundle your time and your services any way you want. But to your point, like, what is the kind of impact you're trying to make? Who do you actually feel motivated to help? A lot of people, even when I'm working with clients, they'll say, oh, I really want to help people. And I always kind of stress test that and say, who do you want to help, and how do you want to help them specifically? And I think coaches have to really apply that to their own practice and their offerings, and say, like, what actually makes sense. If I want to work with people, I mean, maybe career counseling or career coaching is not the space for somebody that feels like, well, I want to do one-on-one coaching, but I want to offer premium pricing for premium experience. Maybe career counseling isn't for you. Go try life coaching, go try nutrition, go try whatever else. Like, when you're working with people who are impacted by a layoff, you are talking about a very real emotional situation that's going on. You are talking about this rippling throughout the rest of their life. I've known people that have had to move their kids into different schools and move to more affordable areas because they lost jobs. Like, this stuff is just personal for people. So I think the kind of impact you want to make has to also align with what is going to make sense financially for who you're trying to work with.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Krystal. Thank you for coming today. And for anyone who wants to find you or connect with you, they can go into LinkedIn, Krystal Hicks. They can go into your website, jobtalkllc.com. Is there any other way that people can find you and reach out to you and connect with you?
Yeah, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, all of it. It's usually jobtalk.llc for Instagram and TikTok. But I throw up a lot of, information and tips and stuff like that, trends as I see them in the market. So Instagram is usually, I don't know what's going to happen with TikTok. No one knows, but Instagram's pretty stable. So you can find me there.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Krystal.
Thanks, Regin.
That's it for this episode of Career Coaching Secrets. If you enjoyed this conversation, you can subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you're listening to this episode to catch future episodes. This podcast was brought to you by Purple Circle, where we help career coaches scale their business to $100,000 years, $100,000 months, or even $100,000 weeks, all without burning out and making sure that you're making the impact and having the life that you want. To learn more about our community and how we can help you, visit joinpurplecircle.com.